007 First Light has finally released after nearly a year worth of trailers. It's been 14 years since we last got a new James Bond game, and almost 18 years since my beloved Quantum of Solace released. The reviews are looking pretty good, but the price tag is looking equally steep. Did IO Interactive get the right balance of gadgets, stealth and action sequences, or did they go one internet celebrity too far?
Thanks. I think.
Join me as I find out for myself, attempting to unlock all 37 of the game's achievements along the way. The game starts off with us in a helicopter on an SAS retrieval operation. Both our helicopters are shot down almost instantly and we end up washing shore as the lone survivor. We're in the middle of buttfuck nowhere in Iceland, and to make matters worse, our radio is absolutely fried. Some bad guys turn up to investigate the crash site, so we sneak past them as we try to figure out a plan. Now, the issue is, my stealth ability is seemingly absolutely non-existent, so I clock my first death within about 30 seconds. Whoops. This doesn't bode particularly well, considering that First Light was made by the Hitman devs, who absolutely love their stealth. After making it past the first batch of enemies on my second attempt, MI6 somehow managed to contact us on the radio, despite the fact it was supposed to be broken. We channel our inner Lara Croft here as we make our way towards the enemy base, whilst MI6 is in our ear refusing to give us any answers. We slide down to the enemy base and enter, promptly getting spotted by the first enemy we see. By some absolute miracle, Bond just happens to speak Montenegrin and convinces the enemy that he's one of them. MI6 want us to try and locate a crashed satellite that their research crew were studying. After finding multiple dead engineers and discovering that MI6's asset is actually missing, Bond decides to defy orders and try to save the remaining workers before the bad guys blow up the research site. We begin taking down enemies and sneaking around the site, attempting to save the engineering crew. Unfortunately, with my absolutely atrocious combat ability, it seems that the crew may actually be doomed.
Look at it.
After grabbing the last few collectibles on the level and saving the rest of the hostages, we now need to plan our escape.
Any ideas?
Christ, you don't know.
It's got to be something big. How about toppling the central mast? It's barely standing in this storm.
The idea is for Bond to topple a radio mast to cause some chaos, with that being the sign that the hostages will use to actually book it. Things unsurprisingly go a little bit pear-shaped during the sequence, with Bond getting a little bit distracted and ending up doing a spot of wrestling. We then basically blow up an entire enemy tank with a quad bike, standard, before deciding to blow up the entire enemy base just to pop an achievement. Or escape. Minor details. After defying MI6's orders, we end up having to visit the headquarters for a grilling. We meet Moneypenny and M for the first time, get told off, naturally, and then get asked to become a spy before being shipped off to basic training.
Break your leg, James.
What followed was one of the most rockiest training montages I think I've ever witnessed. Yes, I was learning all of the basics of the game, but I couldn't help but feel like I was in an 80s film. In typical Bond fashion, we do a great job of making friends along the way, and we even managed to pop another achievement for shooting a gun out of an enemy's hand.
What are you waiting for?
Eventually, the cheese does end, however, and we pass basic training. First order of business, now we're back at MI6, we get shown their nifty supercomputer. Now, this little guy becomes rather important as the story progresses. We then get taken to the Q lab, which is filled with awesome gadgets that we never get to use. Sad times. We're introduced to Q, choose which colour gadget watch we want, we pick emerald green, naturally. After learning how to use it, we then get to move into our incredibly nice London apartment. We grab a handful of collectibles from around the apartment, help decide which pieces of art will go up on the walls, and we finally end by getting to see our brand new bedroom. Now, because the devs clearly thought one wasn't enough, cue another Rocky montage.
Meaning. Not. Are you offended?
Now, all of that training has made me mighty thirsty, so I think we've earned a drink or two.
Sandwiches.
You wish. Come on.
We're not even one cheeky bev in, and MI6 are already assigning us a mission. We down our drink and get to work.
Somebody's in a rush.
After successfully putting in the work, it's probably time to crack on with the little side job that MI6 want done. We find our contact before heading to the toilets to find the tablet with our objective on. Apparently, there's a leak from the Trade Ministry and we need to find the suspects. Now, unfortunately, a woman in a red dress has taken a bit of a liking to Bond, which isn't particularly ideal timing, especially as her boyfriend's feelings most certainly aren't mutual. After giving her boyfriend the smoke, we continue on with the mission.
Don't forget to flush.
Now, the game gives you multiple ways to complete most objectives, which is actually quite cool and makes playthroughs feel somewhat unique. We use the dart phone here to temporarily disable the bar staff before sneaking into the back, climbing up and over the stage, and ending up on the first floor. We persuade our way into a private party where the suspect is, hack his phone, and find out that he's actually meeting the person he's feeding the secrets to at the club tonight. We somehow manage to convince him to follow us to the toilet, not quite sure what he's expecting there.
Do you fancy a bum?
Do I fancy a bum?
Yeah.
As in a gay bum?
Yeah, as in a gay bum. Fancy a bum.
With you?
Why not, yeah. So you don't want to hang out in there, we could hang out somewhere else together.
Alright.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But not before the jealous boyfriend comes back and tries to start again.
You're dead, mate.
Unfortunately for the lady in red, it seems that the boyfriend isn't quite built for going 2 rounds. Now the mission officially ends and we need to get back to MI6.
I'm suspending training, effective immediately. A situation's arisen, a matter of considerable delicacy.
We take another ride down to the Q lab, getting a smoke device, shockwave camera, and a rather fetching chauffeur outfit. Apparently we can't really be trusted, not sure why, so we're just the driver at this point.
Don't look at me, I just work here.
After choosing our loadout, we're assigned our next mission. We need to locate and monitor 009, a rogue agent from the original 00 program.
But do not engage the target.
Operation Chauffeur is a go, and we're on our way to a fancy hotel where a chess tournament is being played. With 009 expected to make an appearance and a hotel full of famous faces, this can only end badly. Whilst waiting by a car like a good driver, we spot a bellhop giving a guest suitcase what I can only describe as the every treatment.
Not exactly the 5-star treatment.
Naturally curious, we just happen to learn of a stashed media badge, which we then commandeer and use to make our way into the hotel. As we progress through the hotel, we hear multiple members of staff mention their curious run-ins with the blonde bellhop that they seemingly don't recognise.
Coincidence? I think not!
While sneaking through the laundry room, we learn that the bellhop paid some guys $5,000 just to stop anyone following him. After exercising my fantastic stealth ability once again, we eventually make it through the laundry room and discover that the bellhop has changed outfits. Apparently a lot of racket has been coming from room 206, so that's probably where we should go next. After discovering that the lock is broken, we need to find another way in.
What's that? What?
Building inspector. Just checking for asbestos.
I see.
Casual building inspector duties completed, we continue our pursuit, which takes us through the kitchen, cellar, and eventually into a hidden passage. We find Monroe, one of our fellow 00 agents, murdered down here, and a bomb's been set up ready to detonate. Mr. Bellhop finally makes an appearance at this point, and we promptly give him the hands, of course.
Is that bomb?
It turns out that there are actually 2 of the bellhop, but they get a notification to scoot and they run away. We attempted to defuse the bomb at this point, but Jeremy Renner we are unfortunately not.
All the time in the world.
The bomb explodes, and thankfully we're awarded an achievement for our failure. We now need to try and escape the hotel. We hear a 00 colleague calling out to us, so we manage to find her and save her, before spotting 009 and beginning to pursue him. We steal a car because we're a spy and can do whatever we want, naturally. After a few minutes, we find 009's car abandoned with a mysterious woman stood next to it. She hands us a gun and tells us to pursue him into the airfield. Once again, we just don't question it and we do exactly what she says.
Well, what are we waiting for?
We fight our way through the airfield before ending up in a scene which feels like it's straight out of Fast and Furious 6. Everything goes a little bit Pete Tong and we're eventually thrown from the crashing plane and end up pulling our best Isaac Clarke impression. We freefall towards the ground but conveniently catch up with another free-falling enemy along the way. We commandeer his parachute, pop an achievement for our troubles, and we end the mission here. In what's becoming something of a recurring theme, we're back at MI6 to acquire some new gadgets and replace everything that we just lost and broke. Among the new goodies are flash mines and a laser strap, which is particularly useful in acquiring future collectibles. Suitably geared up, we acquire our new mission. It seems 009 might have turned to the Pirate King to help make him disappear. We now need to travel to Aleph, which is basically the black market capital of the world. What could possibly go wrong here?
Find 009 and bring him back. Everything depends on your success. No pressure.
Upon reaching Aleph, we head into the shipwreck and begin our new mission. Right off the bat, we do a rather fantastic job of introducing ourselves pretty much the only way we know how. The Pirate King makes his first appearance and
Big man thing, yeah? It's not looking good, Bev. It's not looking good.
After the Pirate King's little display, we now need to meet with Ali, which is his right-hand man. He's hosting a private auction, but unfortunately the entry fee is 100k, and I think we left our wallet at home. After grabbing a handful of collectibles, it's probably time to actually start earning some money. There are a number of different objectives you can complete here to earn some cash, and we start by stealing a cheeky bit of crypto. We pay homage to Rupert Murdoch here by hacking a man's phone entirely for our own financial gain before stealing a crypto wallet. Unfortunately, the wallet is Unfortunately, the wallet is password protected and we need to get to a cell mast before Moneypenny can get into it. The cell mast is past a whole horde of enemies however, so stealth is probably the best option to use here. After a personal best of about 6 seconds, we blow our cover and end up making life just a little bit harder than it needs to be. This does work out in our favour however, as we pop a couple of combat related achievements here, so let's just say that that was all part of the plan. We do eventually reach the cell mast and we net our first 50k as a result.
Just a little short of pretending I belong.
For our next objective, I chose to do the Scorpius mission. I'm pretty sure the whole point of this mission was to infiltrate a crime syndicate called Scorpius, although I can't quite remember. As far as I'm aware, they were trying to shift some stolen artwork, but I chose to just take it and sell it myself. Now, surprisingly, I performed some of my best stealth moments here, and that isn't just a joke for once, before meeting with the potential buyers and bagging my cash.
Wait, your money. Peter, please pay him.
Pirate Crew was purchased, partly because it's a collectible, but more importantly as a fashion statement. We then pay our 100k entrance fees to gain access to the auction.
Crypto. Batman thanks you for your contribution.
During the auction, we're hooked up to a polygraph, which, needless to say, isn't particularly ideal. We use our watch to sabotage the other clients, making it look like the goods they're offering are fake, before winning the auction ourselves. This gains us access to Ali, and more importantly, it gets us an achievement for our troubles.
Congratulations on your purchase, gentlemen. One of my men will be with you shortly to settle the bill.
Ali advises us on the location of 009, but we'll need to exercise a bit more stealth to make it there. We unlock a few more combat related achievements during this time, before reaching 009's boat. As a former spy who is fearing for his life, 009 has unsurprisingly booby-trapped his boat. As a current idiot with very few brain cells, these booby traps kill me. After a few failures, I make it past the traps and enter the interior of the boat, where we find that 009 has unfortunately been murdered. We very quickly get over this revelation however, as we're rewarded with an achievement for our discovery. We search 009's boat for hints on where to go next, but unfortunately we're rudely interrupted by housekeeping and get knocked out. Pirate King Lenny Kravitz decides that he didn't like us snooping around and attempts to feed us to the alligators, but Greenway bargains with him and we're finally released. We followed the clues that 009 left for us, ending up navigating through another shipwreck before finally finding his hideout. We discover the evidence that 009 left for us and find out that he was actually the target, and he wasn't a rogue agent.
He was the target.
But with that comes another impeccably timed ambush. We fight our way out of the initial ambush, but they've stolen our escape vehicle and we're going to have to find another way out. Cue another unnecessarily long combat sequence, which ends with Greenway saving us in another vehicle. Now, this vehicle doesn't last very long either unfortunately, and the evidence that we just found is then destroyed. Pirate King makes one final appearance here to save our bacon however, and with that, the mission ends.
We're done here. Fall back! Fall back!
After that painfully long mission, Greenway makes a sensible decision to go to the pub. Bond heads back home to rest, but that plan is rather short-lived. We find a note left in the apartment, apparently from Bond, which seems alarmingly like a suicide note. We're then attacked by a couple of intruders, who we promptly dispatch. No time to catch our breath though, as we also have a bloody sniper aiming at us. We end up in another predictably over-the-top scene here as we race across the rooftops to try and catch the sniper. After wreaking absolute havoc on the surrounding area, we almost catch the shooter, but for some reason he wasn't willing to give us a hand. After just about surviving the assassination attempt, Bond decides he isn't yet ready for that pint Greenway suggested. Webb Industries is holding a gala, and the key players connected to the investigation are going to be there. Chances are that the assassin might be too. We don't have an invitation, but when has that ever stopped us before? First order of business is to reach the security room so we can check the CCTV cameras. Now, the gala security aren't particularly willing to cooperate with us here, so after a bit of stealth and thievery, we gain access in our own way. We locate the assassin on the cameras, and shortly afterwards end up in a fight with him. This fight was very simple, you just need to use your watch to sabotage the environment, stunning Murtaugh so we can get a hit in. After landing 3 hits on him, we finish the fight off and pop our next achievement.
Moneypenny, it's Webb. The Murtaughs are working for Nicholas bloody Webb. He's behind everything.
We have a slightly odd encounter with Damien, Webb's son, and a woman named Isola. It seems Damien spiked our drink however, because right after this we pass out. We wake up bound to a chair, not in a fun way, with Damien and Nicholas Webb standing over us. Webb clearly isn't happy with Bond investigating him, so he orders Damien to kill him. We antagonise Damien for just long enough to hack his phone for some useful information, at which point he then leaves us to his cronies, but fortunately Isola is there to save us. We now need to get out of the gala, but there are entire kill squads on the way, so that may be easier said than done. We end up in a whole host of fights here, and naturally completely ignore the stealth option, going out guns blazing pretty much whenever possible. We eventually do make our way to the loading docks however, but even here there are bad guys expecting us. Not to worry though, as there's a conveniently placed dustbin lorry for us to commandeer. We hop in and continue our main objective of pretty much just destroying as much of London as possible, before completing our getaway and the mission itself.
First move.
You'd assume that Bond might finally be ready to sit down and catch his breath at this point after the numerous attempts on his life, but he clearly has other plans. With Greenway in tow, it's time to pay a visit to Webb Industries itself. One of the overarching themes of the game is that Greenway absolutely hates Bond. He thinks that he's hot-headed and immature, and to be completely honest, he's not entirely wrong. Fortunately, he believes we're onto something and he wants to help us out. After getting bored of the security officer's small talk, we shoot him with a dart and he ends up having to fast track himself to the nearest toilet. We begin creeping our way through the facility, taking a short break along the way to have a surprising heart-to-heart with Greenway. More hacking of doors and creeping through vents, we then end up running into Isola again. She won't explain why she's there, but she instructs Greenway to go with her whilst we have to head to Webb's penthouse. We unlock an achievement for our breaking and entering skills and begin to search Webb's penthouse for any clues. We locate a handful of clues which enable us to figure out the code to Webb's safe, and inside we find documents and a code word, Basilisk. The impeccable timing continues once again as Webb and Damien arrive just moments later. Now, we attempt to record their conversation, but we get some mixed results there. They leave and the alarm is immediately raised, so perhaps our breaking and entering skills actually need a little bit of polishing. After reuniting with Greenway, we continue to pursue Webb. We commandeer a uniform and then we enter the server centre. Some of the staff there are trying to destroy evidence, but we get the relevant servers back online and come to a rather shocking revelation. Now Thea, the supercomputer that we saw earlier, is essentially used to predict threats, identify suspects and connect intelligence. Now Webb claimed it was always correct, but it turns out that actually that's not the case. Thea makes mistakes and Webb covers up these mistakes by using his own son Damien to plant evidence and get rid of the problem. This confirms that 009 was actually never a traitor and he was framed. Whilst we're discussing this revelation, Webb appears again and attempts to kill us. Fortunately, our trusty watch never fails us and we free ourselves from the prison and attempt to escape. After another suitably inconceivable escape sequence, we end up escaping with Greenway in a helicopter. M is, unsurprisingly, not very impressed that not only did we break into Webb Industries, but we also got caught in the act. Despite this, she does actually believe that we're onto something, so we now need to go and gather ourselves some irrefutable evidence. MI6 intelligence suggests that Damien is making his way to a rather fancy resort in Vietnam called the Pearl. It's suspected he's planning a murder to look like the work of an assassin called Caliban. He's believed to be dead, but Thea disagrees. The first half of this mission is actually very cool, and it may well be my favourite area in the entire game. We identify 3 potential targets for Damien's assassination attempt, and we now need to get close enough to each of them to make them swallow a tracking chip. This chip will track their vitals for 24 hours and alert us if one of them ends up in danger. We pretend to be a yoga instructor to get close to Ramon, openly admitting to our plan. Fortunately, he's rather happy to work with us. We then sneak into a relaxation area where Lorca is, exercising our impeccable Bond charm to get close enough to begin tracking her. Finally, we have to get a tracker onto Ellis. He's very obnoxious, very drunk, and has ultimately been cut off from being served any more drinks. Not to worry, however, as Bond was clearly a bartender in a past life. After commandeering some alcohol, we serve him a drink, and with that, all 3 trackers are in place. Almost immediately, it seems that Lorca's in trouble, as her heart rate and breathing are slowing rapidly. We rush to her villa to discover that she is actually completely fine. Now, Bond takes this as an opportunity to, put in some work.
I've been known to experiment.
Audio. James. Still on. Tea time.
Fast forward to the evening, and Bond is just getting ready to head to a party when the trackers suggest Lorca's in trouble again. Turns out this time, it might actually be legit. We sneak into a villa and discover that both she and Ellis have been captured by Damien. We save Ellis before doing everyone a rather huge favour and knocking him out. He just really wouldn't shut up. We then pursue Lorca, who has been taken by Mirko, one of the twins from earlier in the game. Once we catch up with them, we defeat Mirko and save Teresa. Now, in typical fashion, Bond is knocked out by an explosion and wakes up strapped to a slab, with Damien standing over him and a rather perilous looking chainsaw lined up ready to deliver a rather bad time. Fortunately for us, Greenway arrives in a nick of time and saves us, scaring Damien away at the same time. Another gigantic combat sequence begins here, with Greenway providing Overwatch support for us. As we fight enemies on the ground, we also gain the ability to mark targets for Greenway to take out to help us. Greenway and Bond are eventually reunited and start fighting back the enemies together, before hopping on a gigantic mining truck and forcing our way through the mines. It isn't long before we come to an impasse, and we have to once again fight off hordes of enemies. This sequence ends with Greenway unfortunately getting shot, but he insists that it's just a graze and tells us to focus on catching Damien. After a bit more Lara Croft parkour, we catch up with Damien, finding out he basically has some kind of super steroid that turns him into a super soldier. Now, that's not really ideal for little old Bond. Not to worry, however, as just stunning Damien a few times and punching him is enough to defeat him. That clearly makes sense. This scene seemingly ends with Damien dying, and Bond leaves the area to reunite with Greenway. Now, sadly, Greenway was downplaying the severity of his injury, and Bond sits with him for a little while before he passes away.
There is no doubt that Britain is in a highly precarious situation.
Back at MI6, and the place is absolutely chaos. Webbers began leaking highly sensitive intelligence, blackmailing MI6 and the British government into granting him immunity. Unsurprisingly, Bond doesn't much approve of this decision and decides to take matters into his own hands, once again. He meets Q for a drink and, upon being left unattended in the Q lab, decides it's time to cause a bit of carnage. He proceeds to destroy the place as a trade-off for getting his hands on all of his gear. Fully geared, we then leave the lab just as Isola contacts us. She seems to know where Webb is going to be next and proposes that we work together. We pop her an achievement here for leaving MI6 as a rogue agent and enjoy some alone time with Isola on a luxury yacht. After a short while, her contact arrives and whisks us off to our target location, Webb's super secret facility in the Antarctica. We are fast approaching the climax of the game as we arrive in Antarctica. After sneaking into the facility, we quickly learn that we're going to need a security bracelet to gain access to the cable car. This is what takes you into the actual main compound. After commandeering ourselves 2 bracelets, we get onto the cable car and make our way into the compound itself. Unfortunately, it seems that Webb suspects he may be followed, so he changes everyone's security clearance, giving only himself and the head of security access to the heart of the facility. We'll need to gain access to the security office to be able to give ourselves the same clearance level. This results in another rather typical series of events where we're traversing through different areas, bypassing enemies and staff, sneaking around, and just being a general nuisance. After reaching the security office and upgrading our bracelets, we continue our journey to the centre of the facility. It's here that we made the rather shocking discovery that Thea isn't actually Webb's main project. He has a second, much more powerful supercomputer called Hyperion. Now it turns out Hyperion actually manipulates and exploits intelligence. In typical fashion, just as we make this discovery, Webb security officer catches us, setting off the alarms and sending the base into lockdown. Bond doesn't want to let Webb get away, but he's now stuck in a scene that feels like it's straight out of iRobot. With a robot army in pursuit, we continue chasing down Webb. We have to make use of basically every gadget available to us to defeat robots along the way, but we do eventually manage to catch up with Webb. In that classic villain arc, Webb insists he's not in the wrong and that he's actually helping shape the future. He also reveals that he has a dead man switch, and if his heart stops beating, then all of the MI6 intelligence is going to be instantaneously leaked. Much to Bond's dismay, Isola chooses this exact moment to make an appearance and shoot Webb. Whilst Bond tries to keep Webb alive so the intelligence won't be leaked, Isola uses this as her opportunity to steal Hyperion's core and make her getaway. It turns out she isn't on Bond's side, she just wanted Hyperion to herself. The facility begins to break down here and Bond needs to try and catch Isola before she gets away with the core. The mission ends with one of those classic 007 speedboat pursuits. We catch up with Isola, and at that exact moment the military arrives.
This is Bond. The threat is neutralized. You could use a ride. +1.
The final mission of the game begins with us stuck in a cell at MI6. We were supposed to be facing repercussions for going rogue, but Damien's men have crashed the party and broken into MI6 looking to steal Thea's core. We begin to pick off enemies before we hear a phone ringing and go to investigate. Surprisingly, it's Em on the phone and she is finally given in and agreed to support Bond. We start working through MI6 at this point, rescuing staff and restoring security systems. Now this level was particularly satisfying because, as it was the last level in the game, we were popping a huge number of collectible achievements along the way. We reach Thea and run straight into Damien, who somehow survived our last encounter. He's holding Moneypenny hostage and stabs her before taking the core and running, knowing very well that Bond won't leave Moneypenny just to die. Luckily for us, Q makes an appearance and offers to look after her whilst we chase down Damien. We head to Q Lab first to get our gadgets back and find that the place is absolutely heaving with enemies. After grabbing our gadgets, we can wreak absolute havoc here, turning almost everything in Q's lab against the enemies. After overriding the lockdown, Bond catches up with Damien and decides to hop into Q's most prized possession, his Aston Martin Valhalla. Now this is no normal Valhalla, it's installed with a seemingly infinite supply of rockets and machine gun ammo, and we use it to make light work of the enemies here. Damien once again chooses to ruin the party at this point though, striking us with a rocket from his, I don't know, super suit? With Bond trapped in the vehicle, Damien heads off to finish his mission. Not one to take defeat lying down however, Bond frees himself and gives chase once again, following Damien through the sewers to the final room in the game. As it's become something of a theme in this game, this boss fight is rather uninspired and just seeks to make use of the whole James Bond plus gadgets combination. After hacking Damien's suit, we then need to run around the room, hacking turrets that he's using to shoot at us before turning them back on him. With Damien's health bar depleted, we confront him, but as always, the room explodes before we can shoot him. Bond and Damien fall into the water below, with Damien attempting to drown Bond as his final action. Unfortunately for Damien, Bond is rather good at holding his breath, and he survives just long enough to be rescued by Isola, although she still prioritised saving the core first. The game ends with Isola leaving with the core, with the final scene being Em and Bond standing over Greenway's grave. Bond is pardoned for going rogue and is given that classic 007 codename that we all know and love. IO Interactive also makes sure to use this moment to tease that Bond will return, although I'm not entirely sure I'm excited by that prospect. The campaign was now complete, but I still had 5 more achievements to unlock. These were basically all focused on the tac sim, which were a variety of combat and mission based training sequences and objectives. Beginning with the tac sim escalations, I obviously chose a suitable outfit and got started. I opted to complete the tactical test as they just needed me to eliminate enemies and I didn't have to attempt any of that pointless stealth stuff. Level 1 just required me to take out all 6 dummies by any means necessary, whilst levels 2 and 3 required me to take out an increasing number of enemies whilst ensuring that I also performed specific moves along the way. These were all very simple however, and they did gain me some experience at the same time. I then had to complete an operation. Now I think there's only a few in the game currently available, but they have announced that there'll be more in the future. I personally went with the laundry room objective from the hotel mission of the main game. All I had to do here was grab 3 notes and escape the room, with all of the guides suggesting that I be as stealthy as possible because the enemies are super strong here and can kill you in a few hits. As always, my stealth ability was severely lacking, and whilst I tried my best, I did kind of blow my cover instantly. I did still manage this on my first try however, but it was probably closer than it should have been. All of these activities grant you experience which increases your rank, and I still had to achieve clearance level 3 for an achievement. After tackling an enemy off a ledge, which was my last miscellaneous achievement I somehow didn't get in the main game, I then proceeded to just grind through a few more Taxim escalations before finally hitting level 3. This was also my final achievement in the game, and I'd finally 100%ed it. Now, the achievement list for First Light was very easy as a whole, but despite taking under 15 hours, I really did feel like it ended up overstaying its welcome, despite the fact that it cost me an eye-watering £60 to purchase. Perhaps I shouldn't have been surprised with the approach IO Interactive took with this game, spending a whole lot of time setting the scene and emphasising stealth. But despite this, I can't help but wish we'd got a game that was a bit more like Quantum of Solace. A fun campaign, a variety of enjoyable gadgets, and an absolutely class multiplayer experience. Honestly, you just had to be there, but it was really bloody good. I hope everyone enjoyed watching this video regardless, and I do promise that I won't take 2 years to release my next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.